Your money has levels. Most people think net worth is just one number. It's not. It's a map. And every line you cross changes the game. Some milestones stop financial bleeding, some create breathing room, some quietly accelerate everything, and a few change the meaning of work itself. In this video, you'll see all 16 stages from below zero to real freedom, and why each one matters more than most people realize. These milestones are not magic. They're behavioral and mathematical checkpoints. Each one changes your risk, your resilience, your compounding power, and the number of bad decisions your money can absorb. The real value is not the bragging rights. It's what each stage lets you survive, ignore, or finally choose. Number 1, negative net. This is where a lot of people begin, even if they look fine from the outside. Negative net worth means your debts are larger than everything you own. Student loans, credit cards, car debt, personal loans, maybe all stacked together. And this stage matters because it creates invisible drag. Your paycheck arrives already pre-spent. Your margin is thin. A random repair, medical bill, or job hiccup becomes a real threat. But here's the important part. Negative net worth is not failure. It's just a starting position. What matters at this stage is not chasing investment returns, it's stopping the leak. You want clarity before ambition. List every debt, know the interest rates, build a plan that lowers chaos first and balances second. Most people stay stuck because they treat the whole pile like one emotional fog. It's not fog, it's math. And once math gets named, it can get attacked. The first milestone isn't wealth. It's traction against the slide. Number 2, zero line. Crossing the zero line looks small on paper and huge in real life. This is the moment your assets finally equal your debts. You are no longer underwater. You are standing on solid ground, even if that ground still feels pretty bare. The reason this stage matters is psychological and practical at the same time. You stop spending your energy undoing the past and start building the future. That shift changes behavior. But here's the catch. Zero is not safety. A lot of people hit this line and relax too early because they feel fixed. They're not fixed yet. They're exposed. One setback can push them back under. So the job here is not celebration alone. It's stabilization. Keep your lifestyle restrained. Keep your fixed costs lower than your pride wants them to be. Protect the progress. This is the first clean page, not the finished book. And the next milestone is what turns that clean page into breathing room you can actually feel. Number 3, cash buffer. This is when money stops being purely theoretical and starts acting like a shock absorber. A cash buffer means you have enough liquid money to handle the small hits without borrowing. Maybe it's 1 month of expenses. Maybe it's enough to cover a deductible, a surprise flight, or a car repair. Either way, this milestone matters because it breaks the debt reflex. Problems no longer force you to swipe a card first and think later. That changes more than your bank balance. It changes your decision quality. When every inconvenience is an emergency, you make rushed choices. You say yes to bad overtime. You delay maintenance. You tolerate fees and stress because you have no room to maneuver. Cash buys time, and time improves judgment. That's why this stage is powerful. It doesn't make you wealthy. It makes you less fragile. And that's the first version of strength money can give you. Once you can absorb the small punches, you can finally aim at the bigger chain around your finances. Debt itself. Debt-free does not always mean mortgage-free. In this framework, it means the toxic, high-friction debt is gone. No credit card balances rolling. No personal loans eating your cash flow. No payments quietly taxing every month. This milestone matters because cash flow is freedom before net worth is. The same income feels radically different when it isn't sliced up by minimum payments. This is also the stage where many people realize how expensive their old life actually was. Debt had been impersonating affordability. Monthly payments made things look manageable while shrinking future options. Remove those payments, and suddenly savings speeds up. Stress drops. Your margin expands. The money that used to service the past can start funding the future. But don't miss the trap here. Becoming debt-free is not permission to inflate your lifestyle with new subscriptions, better cars, or earned upgrades. The real win is redirection. Every payment you eliminated just became a soldier. The next question is where those dollars march. That leads to the first pool of serious capital. Number 5, starter fund. The starter fund is your first meaningful pile of intentional money. not cash left over by accident, not a checking account that happens to be full on payday. This is money set aside on purpose, usually a few months of expenses, specifically to create stability. Think of it as the difference between surviving interruptions and surviving real disruptions. Job loss, health recovery, a bad quarter in your business, a family emergency. This is where financial panic starts losing its grip. A starter fund changes how you show up at work, too. You negotiate differently when you're not desperate. You think more clearly when a bad boss is annoying instead of existential. That's why this milestone is bigger than the account balance itself. It creates emotional distance from every short-term threat, and that distance is valuable. But here's the bigger payoff. Once your emergency money is in place, every new dollar can become productive instead of purely defensive. Your money no longer has to sit in front of danger all the time. It can finally start climbing. The first $10,000 is where the whole project starts to feel real. It's still not life-changing money, but it is proof. Proof that you can retain income instead of watching it disappear. Proof that your habits produce surplus. Proof that net worth can move because of your system, not because of one lucky month. That's why this milestone matters so much. It turns wealth building from theory into identity. At this level, the number itself is less important than the behavior behind it. You probably had to avoid upgrades, automate savings, and say no to things that looked normal around you. That matters. Because wealth is not built by understanding compounding once. It's built by making repeated boring decisions that let compounding stay alive. The first $10,000 is your first small machine. It won't throw off much output yet, but it's running. And once the machine is running, the game changes. The next milestone is where the machine becomes sturdy enough to matter even when life gets noisy. At $25,000, your net worth starts acting like a base camp instead of a lucky streak. You have enough money for your progress to feel somewhat durable. A market dip doesn't erase your identity. One expense doesn't zero you out. Your systems are beginning to hold. That's why this stage matters. It's the point where wealth building can survive normal turbulence. This is also where people begin to notice something subtle. The money starts helping. Interest, gains, employer matches, and consistent contributions begin to stack in visible ways. You still do most of the heavy lifting, but the weight isn't entirely on your paycheck anymore. Some of the push is coming from the assets themselves. That creates motivation because the feedback loop becomes easier to see. Still, this milestone is not comfort. It's foundation. The danger is acting richer than you are. If your lifestyle inflates faster than your assets, the base never gets thicker. Keep the floor solid, because the next stage is where momentum becomes obvious enough to tempt you into mistakes. 50,000 feels different. This is where traction becomes visible. Your net worth is no longer a fragile seedling. It has roots. Market gains can start looking meaningful. A strong savings year can move the total by numbers that get your attention. And for the first time, your money may begin to create a monthly change that feels emotionally real. That's why this milestone is dangerous and exciting at the same time. The danger is overconfidence. Many people hit this level and start reaching for complexity. They want smarter trades, bigger bets, speculative side plays, or a lifestyle that signals success. But traction is not escape velocity. You are still in the phase where consistency matters more than cleverness. The real move here is to protect the system that got you this far. Increase income if you can. Keep contributions automatic. Stay tax-aware. Avoid ego purchases disguised as rewards. Because the next milestone is where the numbers finally get large enough for compounding to stop whispering and start talking back. The first $100,000 is famous for a reason. It's a wall on the way up, because getting there usually requires a lot of human effort. Budgeting, saving, investing, avoiding resets. Rebuilding after mistakes. The money isn't large enough to do dramatic work for you yet, so progress can feel slow and intensely manual. But once you reach this line, the game starts to tilt. Here's why. A 10% gain on $10,000 is nice. A 10% gain on $100,000 gets your attention. The same market behavior creates a radically different emotional experience because the base is bigger. Your dollars begin to recruit more dollars. Still, this is not the finish line people imagine. The wall is not special because everything is easy afterward. It's special because the mechanics finally become visible. You can now feel compounding without needing a calculator. And once you can feel it, staying consistent gets easier. That matters, because the next milestone is where your money begins to lift with enough force to change planning itself. At $250,000, net worth starts creating lift. Not freedom, lift. You still need income. You still need discipline. But your financial life no longer depends entirely on raw effort. This amount is large enough that a decent year in the market, combined with steady contributions, can move your total in a way that feels almost suspiciously fast compared with the early stages. That's the point. Scale changes speed. This milestone also expands your strategic options. You may be able to diversify more thoughtfully, hold more cash without stalling progress, or take a calculated career risk without blowing up the whole plan. The key word is calculated. A lot of people confuse lift with invincibility. They take on concentrated bets because they finally have enough money to make the bet feel exciting. That can erase years. The smarter move is to treat $250,000 like a stronger engine, not a casino budget. You've built something with momentum now. Protecting that momentum matters more than impressing anybody. Because the next stage is where wealth starts feeling less like chasing and more like crossing. Number 11. Halfway mark. The halfway mark is a strange milestone because it's not always mathematically half of freedom. Often, it just feels like the middle. Maybe that's $500,000, maybe it's half of your personal target. Either way, this stage matters because it changes your relationship to time. Early on, the journey feels endless. Here, the destination begins to feel imaginable, and that can either sharpen you or soften you. This is where complacency sneaks in. You've proven you can build. You've escaped the fragile stages. You might even look wealthy to people around you. But halfway is still halfway. The back half of the journey often demands a different skill set than the first. Less scrappiness, more patience, less obsession with every dollar saved, more focus on keeping taxes, behavior, risk, and lifestyle creep from quietly eating the machine. The people who keep going treat this phase like an operating system upgrade. They stop asking, how do I get ahead? And start asking, how do I preserve acceleration? That question becomes essential at the $1 million line. Number 12, million mark. The $1 million mark is emotionally huge and financially misunderstood. It matters, but not for the reason pop culture says it does. $1 million is not a universal finish line. In some lives, it is deep security. In others, it is a strong base. The power of this milestone is not luxury by default. It's that the income your assets can generate starts becoming structurally meaningful. At this level, ordinary market movement can equal months of saving from earlier chapters. That doesn't mean gains arrive on schedule, and it definitely doesn't mean risk disappears. But it does mean the balance sheet now has real leverage. You're no longer depending on effort alone to create progress. The assets are participating in a serious way. This is where many people realize wealth is less about consumption than optionality. The ability to wait. The ability to say no, the ability to recover without starting over. And once $1 million becomes a stable platform rather than a vanity number, the next milestone comes into view. The point where your existing assets can carry your future without heroic saving. Number 13, coastline. Coastline means your investments have reached the point where if you never added another dollar, time alone could carry you to a traditional retirement target. That's an extraordinary shift because it changes the role of work. You are no longer working to rescue your future. You are working to improve your present, accelerate the timeline, or buy better options. The pressure changes shape. This milestone is powerful because it lowers the consequences of imperfection. You don't need a flawless career path anymore. You don't need every raise. You don't need to maximize every year. Your future is still being funded, even if you ease off the gas. But don't miss the nuance. Coastline is not the same as freedom. You still need income for today's life. Your bills do not disappear just because your future self is on track. What changes is your bargaining position with time. And that new bargaining position leads to one of the most emotionally important lines in personal finance, when work stops being mandatory in the same old way. Number 14, work optional. Work optional is where the conversation gets personal. This milestone means your assets combined with your spending level create enough flexibility that work becomes a choice with conditions, not a non-negotiable requirement in its old form. Maybe you can shift to part-time. Maybe you can take a lower-paying role you actually want. Maybe you can pause, build, relocate, or recover without panic. That's the real meaning here, not permanent vacation. Control. People often picture this stage as a dramatic exit. In reality, it usually looks quieter, better boundaries, more selective projects, less tolerance for nonsense, a smaller gap between what earns money and what feels meaningful. That's why this milestone matters. It restores agency before full financial independence arrives, and agency changes everything. You negotiate harder. You tolerate less. You stop organizing your entire life around avoiding short-term financial danger. Still, optional is not absolute. The final leap is when your assets do not just support flexibility. They fully replace the need for earned income. Number 15, Freedom Line. The Freedom Line is full financial independence. Your assets can support your lifestyle with a reasonable margin without needing employment income to keep the system alive. That does not guarantee luxury. It guarantees autonomy. Your life is no longer financed by your labor on a required timetable. That is one of the most profound shifts money can create. But here's what people often miss. Freedom is not only a number. It's a relationship between assets, spending, and expectations. Someone with lower fixed costs can cross this line earlier than someone with a much higher income and a swollen lifestyle. That's why net worth alone never tells the full story. The same million can mean not even close for one person and I'm done for another. Crossing the freedom line is really crossing a ratio. Your money produces enough. Your needs are defined enough. Your risk is managed enough. And once those pieces line up, the goal changes again. Because after independence, the question is no longer, how do I survive? It becomes, what should this money do after me? Number 16, legacy mode. Legacy mode is when wealth stops being mainly about your own security and starts becoming infrastructure for family, for causes, for institutions, for people you will never meet. At this stage, money becomes a tool for continuity. You're not just funding a lifestyle. You're shaping outcomes across time. That could mean helping children without weakening them. It could mean charitable giving with real intention. It could mean trusts, businesses, scholarships, property, or simply a financial culture that outlives you. This milestone matters because it forces a deeper question. What is wealth for? If money only ends in consumption, the ceiling is low. If money becomes a way to transfer stability, opportunity, and values, the game gets larger. And legacy is not reserved for the ultra-rich. Even modest wealth can create lasting impact if it's organized well and deployed with intention. That's the final shift in the map. Net worth begins as a survival number. Then it becomes a stability number. Then an autonomy number. And in its highest form, it becomes a stewardship number. Call back, pay off. That's the real story of net worth. Not one giant leap, 16 different games. First you stop sinking, then you stabilize, then you build, then your money starts carrying weight, then if you stay in the game long enough, it starts carrying time. And that's what freedom really is, not a flashy number, but more life that belongs to you. CTA. If you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe to Outgrow Your Salary.